Hello, everyone. Welcome to Coffee Tea, You and Me, the next episode of our wonderful training series as we go through everything we need to do to become better at winning big in 2025. As you know, we started off this session with understanding of ideas about how to go about planning for your vision, planning for your mission, and then we're moving into planning for your goals, the proper way to set goals, the proper way to allow those goals to be used appropriately within any of your planning for yourself, for your team, and everyone else. And we are espousing something that I think is very, very unique to the way we conceive at Coffee to You and Me goal setting. And it's really a motion of collaborative goal setting because we're big networkers at Coffee Tea, You and Me, and big networkers at Coach Power Training Development. And we really believe that it's important to develop professional relationships and use those professional relationships in the best way possible. And why not start your professional relationships in the planning process, making sure that you have alignment, making sure that you have everything that you need to tap into the resources of your network. And it's only done well if you are actually including your network in your plan. So we talked a couple weeks ago about the collaborative planning process. We know why that's so important, and it flows into every aspect of planning. So you want to make sure you do it well. You want to make sure you do it consistently. You want to make sure that you are always focused on making sure that your people receive the best from you and feel comfortable giving their best to whatever efforts that you're coming up with collectively as a collaborative, right? So the planning, goal setting is no different. Now, of course, there's a lot to the traditional goal setting mindset and a lot of concepts and ideas that you want to stay in front of. And the reason why is really simple. If you don't, do this well, if you don't do this collectively, if you don't master this particular art of planning, then what's going to happen is your efforts are going to be fragmented and isolated. You're not going to be able to focus. You're not going to be able to create the type of energy and synergy around what you're trying to do to make things happen. You're also going to deal with a lot of improper communication, which is going to set bad expectations. um, you're going to experience a lot of um, doubt, fear, hesitation. People are not going to believe in and are not going to embrace the things that you need to do, so much so that you're pretty much locking in and guaranteeing what we call underperformance. There'll be discrepancies, there'll be insufficiencies, there'll be shortages of all types that your team will have to deal with because you really didn't have a cohesive, well thought through, well developed, and bought into plan of how you want to go about doing things and the goals that you want to achieve on the way. There'll be increased levels of uncertainty, which again, when you have an environment where people feel like they're not sure of their stability, they're not sure of how things are going to go, it affects their wellness, it affects their health, it affects their personal and mental emotional stability. It's impossible for them to give their best in that situation. There's a lack of responsibility generally that follows all those ideas and concepts, and people just can't commit. Um, they won't be dependable. They won't be um, there to do their very best continuously. And what you're going to see is a decline in the development of the workforce, a decline in um, the dependability on assignments. You're going to see, deadlines are going to be slipping as a way of habit, as a norm, not a rarity at all. And there'll be increased volatility and vulnerability, and you don't want to see that gloom and despondency and everything that comes along with it. So it's best that you really think through how to set goals and how to do them correctly. Now, there's some statistical models that I want to share with you, and we're going to share with you as we get into today's topic a little bit more. But for those of you all who haven't yet subscribed or liked or shared some of the things that we get to do here at Coach Paul Training Development, I'd like you to take the time to do that, because there's a lot that we offer, a lot that we bring to the table, and we want to make sure that we don't keep this a secret. We want to make sure that we share with as many people as we possibly can. And I want to give you a little bit of statistical model as a form of a quiz, to really help you think through some of the ideas we're going to go through today. Um, And these are just the facts, right? So just think about the questions here. You can don't answer them, but I want you just to ponder those questions right now because we're going to get into the answer really soon, right? So first question: what do the numbers 42% and 3% have to do with goal setting? Question number two: people who have blank goals are more likely to achieve them. Question number three: what practice will make you twice as confident in achieving your goals? Question number four: what kind of goals lead to higher levels of performance? And question number five: what strategy helps best with accountability and motivation? So it appears that the research that has been conducted by HQ Hire, Founder Jar, and Dreammaker present the most interesting answers to the questions that we asked above. And I'm going to share those answers with you right now. It turns out that people who write down their goals are 42% more likely to achieve them than people who don't. And only 3% of people have written goals with the plan on how to execute them in the first place. It's also true that people who set specific goals are more likely to achieve them than those who set general goals. When you visualize your goals, you make you're twice as confident, you're twice as confident in achieving those goals than when you don't. So doing your best to improve your mental and physical health and increase your productivity, all of this even improves your relationships when you can visualize your goals. Setting challenging goals leads to higher levels of performance rather than setting easy goals. But please remember, you need to break your goals down into smaller, more manageable tasks, which can then make them less overwhelming and a little bit easier to achieve, even the challenging goals. And don't forget to share your goals with others because that's what keeps you accountable and motivated. And last but not least, one of the most important aspects of goal setting is tracking your progress. It helps you stay motivated and make the necessary adjustments along the way. Now, the research of this is very, very important. But what I find to be most important is to model your goal setting, your leadership strategies, the pace of your achievement after people that you feel connected to, people that you feel uh, have and are embracing your values. And you need to study their life. You need to study their business. You need to study who they are. People like George Washington Carver is one of my heroes. I also follow, of course, Stephen Covey, um, Dr. Stephen Covey, the late great Dr. Stephen Covey, and a lot of the leadership gurus that have gone and passed. I spend quite a bit of time reviewing their materials over and over and over again annually because the more I get to know the great ones like Zig Ziglar, Dr. Covey, um, you know, so many other leadership gurus and people that I respect. You study their life and times. You study the great letters that they wrote, the books that they've written. Um, you get a sense for what they've lived through, what they've gone through, the challenges they made, and you can come up with basically a goal setting strategy. You can come up with a way that you're going to lead others and in answers that others would have. And so I love the couple quotes that I'm going to share with you right now from Dr. George Washington Carver. And I want you to think about these quotes as we share them with you. Dr. Carver says, start where you are with what you have. make something of it, and never be satisfied. Start where you are with what you have, make something of it, and never be satisfied. There's a lot there that in your goal setting and your planning that you could use. I know I always do. You ask, well, where do you start with the goal setting? Where do you start with the planning? Right exactly where I am. How do I feel? What's going on with me? What's readily apparent that I'm going to have to pay attention to and do? And if I master that thing, whatever the thing is, that either the problem that I'm facing or an issue that I want to grow in, if I master this, I ask myself the trajectory. Where do I think it's going to go? I start setting vision for it. But I'm constantly going back and reviewing. I'm constantly going back and saying, okay, where are we with this week? Where are we with this goal this month? How's it fitting into other goals that we're doing? And I'm constantly evaluating it because I'm never really satisfied with um, the things that I'm doing to implement the goals, because I always know that I want to become more efficient. I want to become more effective. I want to be more precise. I want to have lesser expense associated with achieving the things that I want to achieve. I want to make sure that I'm constantly evaluating better systems that what I want to put in place, right? These are things that are important, but I got that from Garvey. Start where you are with what you have and make something of it and never be satisfied. Number two, when you can do the common things of life in an uncommon way, you will command the attention of the world. There's something to say about this, because the common things that we all have to do to move the needle in our lives, to keep going, um, keep on keeping on, as they used to say, are things that we tend to take for granted. And we don't look to do them in a special way. We don't look to do them in a way that calls out a level of distinction or effort or expertise in what we do, especially as we start to get into our professions. We're doing the same thing that every other professional that has ever done the thing that we're doing, in the same way that other professionals have done the same thing. And you got to figure out how to make it your own. You got to figure out how to shake it up so that when people see you doing the thing that they may have thought was common or the same, um, they see the individual attention that you have placed into making it your own, making it unique, making it special. And that means you have to constantly be in reflection and constantly be looking for feedback, because sometimes the perspective that you need is not going to come from you. In fact, most often the perspective that you need on the thing that you're doing is going to come from someone else. That's why you have to be well read, and you have to continue to update your skills and see what's out there that that could make whatever you're doing better. If somebody else has a different idea about it, and maybe you can build on that different idea about it to even be better than that. Right. So it's very, very important. I do this in coaching all the time, because I know all the coaching techniques. I know all the questions to ask. I know all the strategies to use, but I'm always seeking to hone that edge and to define and to redefine um, the strategies and techniques that I use. And I go through them and evaluate and reevaluate all of my materials every year. This is a part of that practice as I'm looking to, I've already done plenty of writing and training on goal setting, right? It's a part of the VisionQuest 90 process. But I go through these things every year just so I can update and come up with the new thoughts and new ideas and new strategies and ask different questions differently. Number three from Dr. Carver. All my life, I have risen regularly at 4 o'clock and I've gone into the woods and talked with God. There he gives me my orders for the day. I love that thought process of unplugging from the grind, taking the time to get away from it all, changing your environment, finding a place of peace and where there's that you can meditate and pray and, get connected, get grounded, um, do some deep breathing, whatever it takes for you to allow the energy flow from the universe to come into your heart and your mind and develop for yourself something magical for that day, every day. Now, obviously, getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning might not be the thing that we all want to do, but getting up early when it's quiet and there's not a whole bunch of movement or traffic or anything going on will allow you to kind of cut off all the distractions and focus on the higher power, the higher being, the greater essence of life, and plug into that energy and allow yourself let have the energy flow through you and figure out what that energy tells you and use it as what you need to move and progress your goal setting and your planning for the day, and plug into it as much as you possibly can throughout the day so that you can stay motivated and energetic and focused. Number 4, no individual has any right to come into the world and to go out of it without leaving behind him distinct and legitimate reasons for having passed through it. I think in your planning, you do have to think about something more than yourself. It's vitally important because, when you're planning for a bigger reason than just your own personal reasons, then you're going to be, how can I put it? Um, Immediately, you're going to be setting stretch goals. You're going to be setting goals that maybe others might assume or seem to be impossible. You're going to be setting goals that means you have to collect resources of other people's time, talent, or energy in order to create whatever you're trying to create, whatever kind of achievement or success you're trying to create. And it's going to mean you're going to have to work at a higher level. You're going to have to think at a higher level. You're going to have to motivate, train, and develop others at a higher level. You're going to have to develop relationships at a higher level. And you're going to have to be clear. You're going to have to be communicative. You're going to have to have understanding and clear vision. You got to listen a lot. You're going to have to be in growth mindset always in order to do this, because you want to have you want to put your stamp on the thing that you're doing. Whatever that thing is, you want to be able to do it at such a high level that not only is it remembered, but it's shared, it's understood, and it stands the test of time. And the test of time is it does it live beyond you? And if it wasn't done for reasons beyond you, it's not likely to live beyond you. The fifth quote from Dr. Carver that really motivated me, and I think that it always motivates me when I read it and think about it and teach and train about it, is education is the key to unlock the golden door to freedom. Now, when you think about the life and times of George Washington Carver, you're going to realize that not only was he an upright and thoughtful person, but his character is something that he practiced and preached in such a way that it impacted everything he touched in sort of a magical way. He believed a couple things. One of the things he believed is that everyone has something special and meaningful to bring to the table and can significantly contribute to the forward flow of human history through their life's achievements and accomplishments. So he thought that everyone should be striving to achieve greatness. He also believed that people can and should pursue their purposes and passions with a feverish zeal. And in doing so, they would be relevant, they would be meaningful, they would be special, and they could achieve their just rewards. And finally, Dr. Carver believed without education, which is not certificates or degrees, right? It's the ability and the willingness to learn and to share what you learn with others. He believed that without education, we are doomed to the limitations and control that others place upon us. Real freedom is with learning and knowing and understanding where you fit into the universe and how you should move through the universe. So I would say to you, in finding your planning mode or finding your planning guru, or really stretching yourself into the planning space, find someone like Dr. Carver who could be your moral compass. Find somebody like Dr. Carver who could provide the examples, enough examples of so many different aspects of life and business that you can recall the thoughts that he or she might share in almost any iteration or any turn. Develop collaborative partnerships with other people who have the same types of thought processes and influences. Dedicate your goals to a higher purpose than yourself. Decide to emphasize hard work, perseverance, faith, and education in achieving whatever success that you're going to achieve. If you think about it, you find yourself achieving things that and being successful in things that didn't require hard work, perseverance, faith, and education. Maybe you need to go back at it again, and then add those, one of those or all of those four competencies in whatever you're doing. And when it comes to your heroes, again, make sure that you master your hero's body of work. Make sure that you understand the documentation of it. Make sure that you would just be so thoroughly indoctrinated in that process that you could almost hear them speaking to you as you go through doing the things that you're doing, and make the adjustments along the way that they would make. Establish a pace of achievement. It's important to write your goals. It's important that your goals be SMART, which means they're specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and timely. You have to understand the value of specificity. If you are not specific about what you're doing, why you're doing it, how you're doing it, who you're doing it with and for, um, try to get specific. When you're going to have it done, why it's important. You need to know all that stuff. All right. Meet the stretch challenge. Don't set goals that are small, tiny, meaningless goals. Set goals that are meaningful. Set goals that are challenging, that will allow you to develop new muscles, new understanding, new wisdom, acquire new assets, new resources. You have to prioritize your work because all the things you imagine that you need to get done, you're not going to get it done. So make sure that you're doing the things that matter most often. And then, as I said earlier, make sure you break them down in smaller tasks. A lot of people have problems with goal visualization. And I will tell you, it's a very difficult thing to do if you're not in the habit of doing it, right? You have to be in the habit of thinking forward, 3, 4, 5 years from now. Who do you want to be? What do you want to have? What do you want to be able to do that maybe you can't right now? Because when you do that, when you consistently put those thoughts in your mind, you start to understand how to maximize what I call your mojo power. How to disappear into it and get into the workflow that you need to get into consistently, regularly, daily, so that you can constantly be moving your goals forward, right? During this time, you want to maximize your emotional and physical well-being. You have to put some focus on those things. So I would say put some emotional goals, in place, put some well-being goals in place, and start plotting and planning towards the achievement of those things. Create regular moments where you can do mantras or reflections on your highest values and systems, and meditate on those ideas and concepts regularly, once a day, so that you can stay plugged into that higher power, that higher energy, right? And finally, I would suggest that in your goal setting strategy, you might want to share your brilliance with others. Gather and communicate well with all the stakeholders that you're going to need. And then when you think about your vision, when you start really, really, really being good at that, you know that you're going to need people with you at the time that you achieve that vision. And I say, start to build those relationships now. If you think somebody might be with you as you achieve your highest goals and move towards your vision, um, the time to start developing those and solidifying those relationships is right now. No matter whether that's 3, 4 years in the future or 5, you have to start working on those relationships now because you want them there when you need them. And you don't want them to not be there. And when you have meetings with people, make sure that you are offering and making promises that you can deliver on, um, and you're accepting and promises that other people can deliver on, because what you're doing then is you're increasing the mutual accountability that most of you are doing. In the collaborative space, is super important that people offer, accept, execute, right? You got to keep those things in play on a very consistent basis, or the professional relationship begins to um, dissipate. And there's really no forward movement outside of maybe the social movement of your professional relationship. And you also always want to track progress. You always want to keep score of how you're doing whatever it is that you're doing. And you want to be able to show and that it show yourself that you're performing at a high level. You don't want to wait for somebody else to give you a performance plan, a performance review. You want to constantly look for feedback. You want to constantly be able to look back at your habit tracker and think, how well are you doing the things that you know that you need to be doing on a regular, consistent basis? And when you're not doing well, get back on track and do those things that are important so that you can continue to push forward, continue to provide excellence. And the first person who's going to see it is you. And hopefully other people will see it. If they don't see it, maybe you need to make an adjustment to your um, what is the word that I'm looking for? Transferability. That's not what I'm looking for. I'm having a little bit of a brain fog right now. But making sure that your transparency is relevant, it's out there, and it's moving forward. So we talked about a lot today. We talked about basically some key statistics and goal setting. And I'm going to repeat some of this stuff to you because I think you really need to know to understand it. Um, when you write your goals down, you're 42% more successful than people who don't. And there's very few people who write their goals down with a good plan on how to execute those plans. So it's important that you to do that. Make sure that your goals are specific. Make sure that you visualize your goals. Make sure that you set challenging goals. Make sure that you share your goals with others that are a part of your accountability process. They're going to keep you motivated. They're going to keep you excited. Make sure that you track your progress along the way. Pick your key goal setting gurus. Who are the people that you want to emulate? What are the skills? What are the talents that they possess that you want to grow in? And how will you value and how will you evaluate that growth? Um, Make sure you understand what they're going to say inside, outside, upside down, backwards, and forwards. Next week, when we talk about this, we're going to get into developing your personal goal setting strategy. How do you enhance your collaborative style of goal setting? How do you get into clear communication, shared accountability, and strategic alignment? And we're going to talk a little bit about lessons maybe we have learned from the great words of wisdom that come from the Bible on goal setting. And then we're going to talk about the mindset that you need to have on that topic and how the various neurological benefits come to those who set and approach their goals in a meaningful way. Hopefully, we can get through all of that next week before we start dropping into habits. But that's today's topic. Hopefully, you had a good time. I know I did. I'm gonna check any comment section. I don't know how many people. Yeah, I didn't do a good job marketing this particular session, so there's not a lot of people attending or watching it right now. But you can definitely do so in on demand. You can check us out on YouTube, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and hopefully you have a wonderful Father's Day weekend. I know I've got some good things planned. I'm gonna go hang out with my dad. Um, Other than that, you guys have a great time, and I'm signing off. I'm out of here.